What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today I want to do something. I saw this idea on another YouTuber channel a long time ago, and he did it with football, and that is if a team drafted perfectly. This guy's channel is Beard Mo Box, BeardMohBox. The first one I saw was with the Cleveland Browns, and I wanted to take a look today at the Brooklyn Nets. Let's see what the Nets would do if they drafted perfectly. A little setup to this video. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. You don't know what teams are going to do. You don't know what players are going to do. So this is just for pure fun. So don't over criticize it. This is just for the sake of seeing how it would be if they drafted perfectly. They are 30th overall offensively, 27th overall defensively, and 29th overall in the game. So they are bad. Now, why did I pick the Nets? Well, the Nets since 2010 have drafted 10 players. 0 still play for the team. Not a guy that's been drafted since 2010 still play for the team. So, let's go and let's get into the Nets roster and let's see what happens if the Nets would draft perfectly. In 2016, the Brooklyn Nets had one pick, 55th overall, and they drafted Marcus Paige. Marcus Paige does not play for the Nets. However, with it being 2016 and it only being a year into those players' career, it's a little too early to tell if any of the players after that, not really after that because they had the 55th pick, so there were only 5 picks after that. However, any of the undrafted free agents, it's tough to say if they would really fit in or do better. The only one that really stood out to me was Ron Baker from Wichita State, and I'm not saying he's going to be a pro, like a super great pro, but he would be maybe the only other option. Paige had a great college career, so we're going to skip that right now. In 2015, the Nets drafted Chris McCullough at 29th and Pat Connaughton at 41st. And Pat Connaughton was, I believe, Notre Dame. I'm not sure where Chris McCullough was out of. However, a guy that they could have had instead of either of those, right here for the Houston Rockets, Montrezl Harrell. Now, the thing about Harrell is you may not think he's that great. However, for example, Chris McCullough so far, last year he averaged 0.5 points per game, and he has 3.9 for his career. Montrezl Harrell is at least a solid player, averaging 9.1 points per game in 2017 and 6.9 overall for his career. In 2014, the Nets had no picks, but in 2013 they had one pick, and at the 22nd overall pick, they drafted Mason Plumlee. However, had they waited just a bit or maybe made a little bit better of decisions, they could have had Rudy Gobert. That's right, they could have had Rudy Gobert as a center for their team, which could have made a world of difference for the Nets. In 2012, they had one pick, and it was 57th overall, and they drafted Ekan Karaman as a power forward. And now this guy was undrafted, but so again, it's one of those hindsight things, but a guy that they could have drafted in that draft instead of Karaman, who's not even playing in the United States anymore, is Kent Bazemore. Now, Kent Bazemore's rating on this game is not that great. However, if you watch the Atlanta Hawks play, you'll know that Kent Bazemore is a very, very solid player. Now, in 2011, this may be the worst case for them. They had 2 picks. They had the 27th pick in the draft, where they drafted Jawan Johnson, and the 36th pick, where they drafted Jordan Williams. However, it's a heartbreaker for the Nets. Somebody who was drafted just a couple of picks after Jordan Williams, Jimmy Butler. Now, obviously, a lot of teams passed on him. However, it's kind of a heartbreaker to know some of the guys you drafted, and you could have picked up Jimmy Butler. In 2010, the Nets had 3 picks. Derek Favors overall 3rd, which I got back on the Nets here, so that was not a very good trade for them to trade him to the Jazz. I mean, Derek Favors isn't an elite center or a power forward, but he's a very, very solid player, definitely better than what the Nets currently have. At 27th, they drafted Jordan Crawford, whose claim to fame, if you'll remember, he played at Xavier. There was a big thing where people claimed he dunked over LeBron and that Nike made people delete the footage from their phones. Don't know if that's true or not, but that was always the story that I heard. And then at 32nd, they drafted Tibor Plays. Not sure who that guy is. He's definitely not in the NBA anymore as far as I know, but a guy that they could have had, and a lot of guys passed on this, and this is another one of those hindsight is 2020. They could have had a very, very, very good center named Hassan Whiteside. So that is through 2010. As you can see, Jimmy Butler, they have a couple of centers, probably too much, Jeremy Lin. So yeah, this is kind of what we're working with so far. Now, they are lacking point guards. However, we can go through and add some of those from free agency. So in free agency, these are guys who were undrafted that they could have filled their position at point guard. Seth Curry would be a free agent. Now, I know Seth is a shooting guard, but he can also play the one guard as well, so we can add him to the Nets. Jeremy Lin was also undrafted, however, he is back with the Nets, so I'm not going to count that. And lastly, Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II was undrafted. Now, obviously, he's not shaken out to be anything just yet. But again, somebody to pick up to have at that point guard position that they would be lacking at with this roster. So take the Nets roster that it was, and then think about they could have had Jimmy Butler, Rudy Gobert, Hassan Whiteside, Brook Lopez, Jeremy Lin, Derek Favors, Seth Curry. That is a pretty nice team. Montrezl Harrell, Kent Bazemore. Definitely a solid team. Which means that their starting lineup could look something like this. Jeremy Lin starting point, Jimmy Butler at shooting guard, Kent Bazemore at small forward, Gobert and Whiteside, depending on where you want to put those guys, at power forward and center, with backups being Derek Favors, Brook Lopez, Montrezl Harrell, Trevor Booker. Definitely a much better looking team. Offensively, they were 30th, and this puts them at 6th. Defensive, they were 27th, and this puts them at 20th. And overall, they were 29th, and they now are overall 12th. So I think the Nets could benefit from drafting a little bit better, as most teams probably could. So with that being said, we're going to do the next best thing and see what the Nets could have accomplished this year as an example. The Nets this year in the regular season finished 20-62. So we are going to simulate through April, and let's see exactly what the Nets could have done. Okay, after simulating an entire season, the Brooklyn Nets with that lineup finished 53-29. I actually had several stops where there were injuries, and I just chose the computer to auto-fix rotations and such. But 53-29, which would be good for third in the East, one game back from being in first. So that's interesting. Now let's see what they would do through the playoffs. So in the first round of the playoffs, they drew the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to simulate through the current round. Alright, so the Brooklyn Nets beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see if they can beat the Washington Wizards. Okay, the Nets sweep the Wizards. They make it to the Eastern Finals against Cleveland. Let's see what happens. The Nets get eliminated. However, 20 wins versus 53 wins and making it to the East Finals. Very, very interesting to see. Obviously, this is just a game simulation, but I think it's cool to look at kind of what an alternate history could be. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little look at just a little bit of alternate history. If this is something you guys enjoy, I do not mind doing the research and seeing who and where people could have drafted better. So let me know if this is something that interests you, and let me know teams down below that you would like to see me do a video on. I wanted to get this video up for the draft tonight. So yeah, the Brooklyn Nets, tons and tons of mistakes when drafting. They definitely need to learn how to draft better. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.